Hello all, Alison here. Welcome back to Words and Pictures for another Watercolour Wednesday. I'm playing with brushes today. These are the Fuumuui Needlepoint brushes, which you may have seen some of the results from me using. And I just wanted to show you the kind of thing I usually do when I get a new brush, to just have a little play and a little explore. These are by Fuumuui, as I say, and Fuumuui, even though I bought these before I had any kind of relationship with Fuumuui, because I was just really keen to play with them, you can, by using the code Alison, get 20% off your Fuumuui order if you choose to go and buy something from them. Anything, doesn't have to be these. The link will be in the description below. But when I get new brushes, and this can be any brushes, to have a little play with the kinds of brush strokes you can create is a really good way, A, to get to know your brushes, B, to start thinking about the kinds of things you might paint with them, and just to get an idea of what's possible. So I've got some of my Daniel Smith paints. You've seen this palette before, kind of set up with rosy colours in mind. I'll link to that. I think, yeah, we were painting roses with it last time out, I think. So I'm just giving that a spritz of water. I might start with the sort of mid-sized ones. As you can see, I have used a couple. I've used 3 out of the 5 of these, I think. So a couple still haven't been in action. Certainly that one isn't even released. So when you get new brushes, they're very often sort of glued together to protect those bristles. And generally just a little rinse in some water will do it. If you find that things don't want to loosen up, a little bit of warm soapy water, but make sure you rinse it out well. But I think that should be enough to get that one going. So this pack, you get 5 sizes of the needlepoint brush. I think the needlepoint brush is also available within various other sets, but I'm going to show you what I mean about just having a play. So here are various greens and greys, and because my brain very often goes to botanicals, as you all know, what I will have a little eye out for is ways in which this could be useful botanically. But to start with, I tend to like to just put the brush down on paper and see what I can get. And you can see just by lifting and replacing the brush, I can already get some really interesting marks on the page. Let's zoom in so that you can see what's happening now that you've seen the general setup. I'm using, just for this tester go, I'm using the fairly cheap Goldline Studio pad again, and just trying out some things with that. And yeah, you can see that's some really satisfying mark making. Let's see what happens if I stick to just the tip. This is the kind of the whole point of the needlepoint brushes, is that you can get a needlepoint look. So this is quite a large brush, so even the needlepoint is a good thickness, but you can also see how much water these hold. You can keep going for quite a long time because the body of the brush is holding lots of water, and just sending that paint down into the tip gradually, that's amazing to be able to do that on one loading of the brush. Going to mix up some more of this, and I'm going to see what happens if I just kind of push. So again, some really interesting texture marks, and I'm just sort of gently rotating the brush as I go. Don't worry that that's kind of breaking it up. A little dip in some water, rinse it out, and you come back to your perfect brush. Let's have a look with maybe some pinks on, just to get a sense of what might be petal kind of marks. I've now got pink and green going on the brush, so I'm just dipping in and letting myself pick up whatever paint is available, not really thinking too hard about it. So yes, I can do little tiny marks with just the tip of it, and then I can do really quite good firm brush strokes like so. And what's really interesting is automatically I'm getting, because where that tip continues to hit, there's a larger application of paint. I don't know if you can see those stripes down the middle of those strokes. Let's do that again so that we see what I mean. So even if I put the brush down whole, as I lift up, that middle bit is continuing to make contact, and so it leaves an extra deposit of paint in the middle, which could be really nice for petals, because it's straight away achieving that kind of look of a seam down the middle of the petal. It's going to be great for leaves as well. My brush is now quite wet, so I'm just going to use a little bit of a kitchen towel to dampen it and come back in with a bit of green. I can't remember the exact greens that are on here. I think Sap Green is here. I think Green Gold is here. There are certainly some greys. That's really interesting as a kind of vegetable look. That's a little green pepper all by itself. Let's pick up and do another squidge and up. Oh, see, look at that for a leaf. Squidge and up. Perfect leaf in one stroke. In just one stroke. That's tip of the leaf, body of the leaf, stem. Sorry, that was off camera, beg pardon. The trouble with zooming in. People request to zoom in, I zoom in, and then I'm too close in. So this is what I mean about that seam down the middle of the leaf. It's being created automatically. And if I kind of rotate, I can get a much wilder kind of leaf. And this is always going to be great for a stem, just travelling, and then adding leaves coming off it in a gentle kind of way. That's fun. Might need another piece of paper to play on. I'm wondering about just trying out a slightly finer one of these. So I think this is the smallest one and a bigger one. So yes, I will get another piece of paper. And I have zoomed back out again a little bit. I'm going to come in with, this is the smallest of the brushes, so I should be able to get a nice fine line from it. Just mixing up something a bit green-grey. I'm missing a blue here. I'm going to have to go and get a blue in a minute if I'm not careful. So that gets me, yeah, a lovely, fine, wispy little stroke. And another stroke I always try out with any brush is a flick. That's a very satisfying flick. And if I add a little bit more to the, there we go, look at that as a flick, using more of the brush. Let's come back in and just try out a few leafy looks. See, that's really interesting because I'm getting almost a double leaf, and then I can bring in a stem down the middle. Very fine line. That's lovely. Look at that. Let's get a couple more of these on the go. So depending on which direction you drag the brush, you get a different kind of leaf. A flick is quite nice. A flicked leaf, and then you can shape it just a little more. I'm enjoying all of that. Let's see what happens if we go with this big one. And I'm just thinking about maybe shaping some floral cups. Something a bit peony-like. There's some French ochre on the thing here, and I think also Naples Yellow. So that's just giving me the chance to build the petals of flower. Let's put another stroke in there. And you can see I'm really just pressing down, not doing anything more. I'm letting the brush do the work, because this is experiment. When I get to actually painting, then I might do things differently. I might bring in other kinds of brushes. But at the moment, this is just playing a game with these brushes that I've got, looking for something a bit more rounded on this leaf to see if I can control that look. Yeah, I'm loving how that green is bleeding into here. That's very satisfying. I might encourage that look because it's making me happy. There we go, nice. And let's try a smaller flower over here, again with a bit of that. I think that's the Naples Yellow up there. So I'm putting a bit more of that in the mix. Just a little kind of drag of a flower shape. And this is sort of what I was talking about as we were painting the roses the other day. By practicing with a stamp, you're practicing the kinds of brush strokes that you might eventually want to play with if you do want to do a bit of freestyle flower painting. That's nice. Let's come in here. There's a bit of a mess on the palette here. Look how that's all bled together. in a minute I will clean that up a bit, although I quite like this sort of brown colour that's coming here. Just wondering about creating a bit of an orchidy kind of flower somewhere down here. Something a bit wild and wonderful. It's a pretty colour, that brown. Sort of not any colour. It's between red and green and I don't know what all. So yeah, what about if I put some water down first? So this is basically clear water. Just letting that dance on the page a little bit. And then I'll come in with some of this. I think this is the Quin Rose. So if you lose sight of where your watery bit of paper is, just hold it up to the light and hopefully you should see where that shimmer is. And then I'm just going to drop some colour to let it spread. It's so satisfying. Just letting watercolour paint do what it wants. Now, this is not the most expensive paper in the world. So in a minute, I might do a couple of these with a slightly more... oh, look at that bleed. That's beautiful. A slightly more valuable watercolour paper. And again, if I just let the green touch the wet, it'll start to spread out. But that's doing quite nice sweet pea things in my head. Just as a really loose, soft little go. Let's have some more water down. It's not quite clean, but I'm fine with that. And again, dropping some colour into there. Let it run. Then you can choose to do a bit of shaping. Just letting it spread out. But again, I'm really letting the brush do most of that work. I'm not doing anything very much other than put the paint into the water, into the brush strokes that has created. That's doing nice things. Maybe one more of those because it's fun. Let's put a little bit of water down here. A little bit of paint into it and watch it flow. Just gorgeous. So again, I can choose where to pull this. If I didn't have the needlepoint brush, this would arguably be easier, but this is the brush I'm playing with today. So I'm going to try and create a bit of a petal and let that paint move into the spaces. And then again, just drag a bit of green down from the stem and let that do what it does. Little flicks of foliage, nice flicks of foliage. And it's just a question of exploring, seeing what these brushes will do for you, with you. I'm going to do another of these because I do enjoy just seeing what happens when you apply pressure, don't apply pressure. So very gentle pressure, press down, lift up, press down, lift up, press down. And whenever you're trying new brushes, whatever shape they are, really doesn't have to be a needlepoint. Just try out various moves with your hand. See what happens if you, rotate. See what happens if you push away. That's very often a great way to get texture. Look at that for a grassy texture. So you're finding ways to make strokes that are going to excite you, make strokes that are going to help with the things you like to paint. So obviously I'm exploring for a botanical move, or a landscape, or a seascape, as you've seen lately. I'm quite enjoying the seascapes. I'll pop some links down below to some other bits of watercolour, or just go to the homepage and search on the Watercolour Wednesday playlist. They're all gathered together for you. So if you want to see some more watercolour work, watercolour playtime, it's a sin to call it work really, because it's a joyous thing. But as I say, if you want to go and explore the Fuumuui website, I'll put that link down below. And if you use the code Alison, you can get 20% off anything you buy, which is a lovely thing. And yeah, they have brushes, they have paints, they have paper. It's all worth exploring. And yeah, take things out for a spin. Don't put any pressure on yourself to immediately create beautiful things. Let yourself play and explore. See, I'm wondering about linking some of these together with little fine brush strokes. Let's see what else we can do up here to just wake this up. Look at that, you get a dot and a mark. In terms of random mark making, that's incredibly exciting. That gets you a really good, interesting texture, and all I'm doing is touching the brush to the page. So in amongst that woodly that went on for so long because the brush holds so much paint, let's get this broad brush stroke back in and just see what that does. Yeah, so again, there's something really exciting about watching the paint run, just seeing what you can get. So these have suddenly become flowers just because I've put stems on them. Let's see what we can add in a little bit of depth and shadow down here. And again, the flick, one of my favourite things to do with any brush is just to create flicky grasses, as you might imagine. And I'm sure, look at that spatter coming. That's really yummy. Dun, dun, dun. So, as I mentioned, this palette here has now got itself really messy. So there are browns in amongst my greens and browns in amongst my pinks, because if you mix pink and green, they're approximately opposite each other on the colour circle, you're going to get sort of browny neutrals. So I'm just going to clean that up a little bit so that when I come back to it, I can recreate some greens and some pinks for flowery painting. I've just done the cardinal sin, left this in the water pot. If I've done that for 20 seconds, that's fine. But with a good watercolour brush, and I would say these are good watercolour brushes because of how much paint they hold and the variety of stroke they give you, don't leave it in the water pot. That's my 101 brush instruction. Don't leave your brush in the water pot, Mrs. Worthington. And now you're all thinking I'm crazy. Don't put your daughter on the stage, Mrs. Worthington is a marvellous song. Humorous song. Look it up, Google it. I'm sure it's on YouTube. So yeah, look, I'm just continuing to play. I'm just continuing to find out what I can do. Ooh, look. And you can create a scenic writing, the writing that isn't quite writing, because it doesn't quite say anything. How am I with dots? Yep, lovely to create dots. But yeah, I'm really fascinated by this texture, as I say, just from putting the brush down and picking it up again. Nice. It's just playtime. Do some playing with your brushes, with your paints, and see what you get. I said I was going to go on and do some painting on here, but I think we might just leave that for another day. That was just putting water down and then adding paint to it. That's some more of the Daniel Smith paints, just making a note down there. And that was these brushes, size 8 and size 4, creating that. And this is the bamboo watercolor paper. So yeah, if you're interested, let me know and we'll have a little play on there. So this was again the Fuumuui Needlepoint Brushes, this time with the grey palette. Yeah, it's fun to explore and find out what you can get. I hope you've enjoyed that little bit of Watercolour Wednesday, that little bit of inspiration to play with your brushes, take them out for a spin, see what they can do for you, see how they're going to serve what you want to paint. Obviously, these brushes are really great for botanicals, but I'm very sure they could do a good job on maybe some urban sketching. I feel like you could get fabulous straight lines from these. And then add maybe trees. Maybe I should take them out for a landscape spin the next time around. You tell me. Let me know in the comments. Don't forget, I'll link down below to some other watercolour videos, as well as to the Fuumuui website. Use the code Alison, 1L, UK Alison 1L, and get 20% off anything on the Fuumuui website that catches your eye. Thanks so much for your company, and happy crafting all.